Okay, we'd like to open the July meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee. We will jump right in with a discussion of the minutes from the June 9th meeting. Everybody has a copy of those, and when you've had a chance to review, as I have, we can entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the secretary's minutes with the corrections to a couple of names.
Okay, motion to accept as amended with making sure everybody's names are correctly spelled.
And the park, Houghton Park.
Houghton Park, yeah, it
Yeah.
needs to be, Houghton needs a G, H-O-U-G-H,
That's all I see.
number 9.
Okay, it needs to be what?
H-O-U-G-H.
G-O.
H-O-U-G-H.
T-O-N, yeah, Houghton. Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those how do we say that? All those in affirmative say yes.
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 Opposed? And abstain, no, so unanimous, 6-0. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had a brain spasm. Okay, so under the next item, which is typically discussion of the town meeting, we're under development of new projects, nothing really pressing to discuss tonight. There's a few other items that we want to go over, which the next item being the financial report. And I've provided everybody a list of the current projects as of, the end of June, which is the end of the fiscal year. There are still a couple items to clear, but I'd like to go through those on each. This will give us an indication of where we stand on things. This does not reflect anything related to the ongoing balances these are the committed funds. So I did request, but have not yet gotten the balances of the actual reserve accounts for the different categories. So we'll have those to discuss next month, I'm sure. So I've sorted these. You can see this is how every town meeting article gets assigned an account number and a name, and then I've added on here who the recipient is and what is the project. And so you'll see the first two listed are MPC development, which is the Boynton Elementary School. And there are two items there because, as you recall, in the article, we used $205,000 from the historic preservation account and $969,000 from the general unbudgeted reserve to get the $1.174 million total allocation. So that money is earmarked and set aside. There has been progress on that. They have submitted a huge document to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I don't know if that date has been set for the hearing, but I think they give you 30 days notice.
Yeah, I think there's some meetings posted with CBA that I've seen, but I don't know when they're, is that?
Oh, okay, here it is. Yeah, so it's Wednesday, July 27th at 6:30 p.m. Okay, so, there is a link on, this is from the ZBA this is what you got to the public hearing notice. Did you get this from the website or you got this as a planning board?
There's a notice, but we talked about it at a planning board meeting also, so.
Okay, so that's July 27th and it's a huge document and I don't know who has time to digest and read that whole thing. I keep meaning to click on it, but I haven't. That's just the next step in the process. Then they get a comprehensive permit from the town and then they continue to go forward seeking their funding and their other tax credits because everybody recalls this is like a $20 million project when it's all said and done. So stay tuned on that. Anybody that wishes to attend, it'll be July 27th, 6:30 p.m. at this conference room. And it will be the Templeton Zoning Board of Appeals to review an application filed by CCMPZ School Street LLC, which is the name of the company. MPZ is the developer for proposed 40B comprehensive permit filed under Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, known as Bournville School Apartments for a property located at 12 and 16 School Street as identified on the assessor's map 1.41, parcels 380, 381, 382, 383, 384, 385, and a portion of 407. The applicant proposes to develop 54 rental apartments on approximately 2.97 acres. Area is zoned Village District. So that's that. Any discussion or anything on that? We just were involved because it was a CPC funding. That was the town's commitment to move forward on that. The next two items are an update from the of the Narragansett Historical Society projects indicated as Grange Hall 3 and Grange Hall 4. You'll notice that we do have a balance showing of $2,400 on the one account, and then the most recent billings that came in were and have since we're supposed to be go out, a check was cut, this week, is that $16,403 figure. And that's to bring us current with the work that has been done regarding the rehabilitation of the property. We may want to seek, if it's possible, to just merge those funds into one rather than trying to spend $2,400 exactly when you have $37,200 total remaining to spend minus the pending funds. I'll have to check into that, whether it's allowed. It's not an issue at this point. And so we'll keep going. And if you don't let me go too fast, if you want to stop and talk more about something. The North County Land Trust has the Dwelly Farm project, and as you see here, which was voted at the special town meeting in November of 2019. They show a balance of $11,240. They're developing a new plan for the they're doing both the exotic plant removal and then species invasive removal and the planting of community gardens and things like that. And so it's a multi-year process. We have spoken with them about the signage to go up there. And we need to have obviously the sign, and we've talked to Bob at the DPW about, the orientation to, make it perpendicular to the road so it's more visible. And that will have the verbiage about the CPA funding and the citizens of Templeton, as well as the land trust, the town sign, town logo, and the name of the property. And then, so the Emily from North County was meeting with her committee to talk about the final spend out plan. So we fully anticipate that being done in the current fiscal year, which we just started. But so they're on track. Okay, so the next item and all the remaining items are our town projects. The first one is the Baldwinville Fire Station that we just voted on this year at the town meeting, $9,000. And that's to do the building study with a consultant. I've spoken to our town administrator and wondering, what the time frame is for that. And currently there's a backlog of jobs of the contractor that has been used. So I was asking whether it's possible it might be done to get a report in time for something to the special town meeting in the fall. He said not likely, will likely be something that will be complete. We can evaluate and look for an annual town meeting project for that rehabilitation of the Baldwinville Fire Station.
So you think the study will be done sometime this year, but going forward wouldn't be until the annual?
Yeah. Yeah, just because,
Yep.
time. And okay, the next item is Concom. That is our conservation fund, and that is the one that has been voted on and allows the Conservation Committee in consultation with the Open Space and the CPC to utilize funds related to conservation activities. We have heard from the advisory that they would like to see us close out this account. As you can see, that's from 2010. We could look at trying to get some more conservation work done this year for that. But it serves as a functional reserve for when these projects crop up and there's a need for conservation related expenditures. We have used monies from this to fund the open space and recreation plan. It was originally $15,000.
I thought we had used some of that.
Yeah, originally there was 15,000.
An 8,000 balance. left.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll have a question about that.
okay.
After concerning the auto pool, we did some reconnaissance work today, so.
Okay,
Under new business, I'll bring that up.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Next item is the River's Edge Conservation Area, and you'll see that that's now got zero. We actually voted to close that account. That money's been spent out, and obviously, I need to make sure that Kelly knows that she can remove that from the list because it's done. The next one is the CPC admin budget, the Community Preservation Fund. And so you can see last year we had allocated $20,750, and we show an expenditure of $5,500, leaving a balance of $15,203 at the end of the fiscal year. There were a couple of things pending in that we had approved. The $800 was for the police detail that was required for 2 days of work, removing the trees on the North County Dwelly Farm project. We approved up to $800 for that because the town did the work, but they didn't have a budget for the detail. So we voted to use CP funds for that. The other thing is the $3,000 is for the cemetery sign. Now, both of these bills have been paid, and I did not get for sure whether I don't believe that's included in this $5,500. So I think that's another encumbrance that we'll see come out of that, so that we would end the balance of the year with like $11,500. And since the fiscal year ends, and of course they're just wrapping up the books now in July, any monies not expended in that would go back to the unbudgeted reserve, and our new fiscal year would be the new 5% allocation from our annual town meeting. So the sign has been delivered to the town, and it sits at the highway barn. It's the black sign that we looked at that has the Templeton Common Burial Ground name, and it has the Templeton logo on it. It looks really nice. And then the post, Bob and his team are going to install it. If you look at and so I brought up that we really need to make sure they posted where they want to put it, and it's gone to the town administrator to make sure that that's appropriate in terms of what the Board of Selectmen want. The town line and the church line, if you look at the property line, if you look at the map, the assessor's maps, I couldn't tell, where exactly it is, almost to the point of meeting. But so I know Adam was going to talk to the deputy assessor about the boundary. I don't know if there's a pin or what needs to be determined as to where the line is actually. Because, there used to be a school there and the town was there.
Say there was a building
The
there.
brick building.
Yeah, and who knows if that brick building was totally on the town land or the church land, but if you look at the map and you can call it up on the computer.
Well, there are pictures of the building. It's directly adjacent to the church.
Right,
so
it was pretty
it's
close.
off to the side of it with a small alleyway in between.
Yeah.
The question was, how far out does it go? Because where that picket fence is, the intent was to put the sign in front of the picket fence so that it would stand out more. But we just want to make sure that it's,
I think that building actually came into most of the parking lot that was there.
Yeah.
It kind of sat on a kitty corner
Yeah.
angle. I remember running behind it a couple of times. There wasn't a lot of
In the
room.
Boynton Library, there's a map of the common that shows the boundary lines of the common. So
Oh, really?
you might,
Okay.
it's on the wall in the main
That might-
reading.
yeah, well, even the assessor's maps show, church land, town land.
Yeah.
But where is that physically when you go over
Yeah,
there? I mean, you
yeah.
need and so realistically, and this is something we might want to consider and advocate to the fathers, the people that be, is to ensure the entire common is surveyed. And if we were to do any projects related
We
to
had a survey.
the
They
improvement,
haven't done the whole common. They only did sections of the common, and they haven't done that area.
The Common Improvement Committee had the common surveyed. I
okay,
can't remember the guy that did it.
Was Zoc?
It wasn't Zoc.
Yeah.
No, it was,
Oh, we have the report on that.
yeah,
Okay.
you're right, there is a report for that.
because I know another issue is related to the who owns what land in this.
Bob Whalen might have some of that information. I'll ask him.
Well, I
about
think
that.
we have the report in the historical commission files,
Yeah, we made a
a book.
booklet, right, right.
Matter of fact, it was at the selectmen's meeting last night.
The book was?
Yeah,
Book was-
Okay, so, we just don't want to stick it in the ground without knowing where it is. Okay, so we're going to keep moving. So the other thing to note is, because there was a question raised last month regarding the expenditure of monies for an administrative assistant, how much money do we annually spend? You can see that, based on this, we spent about, $9,500 in the past year with administrative funds, if you add the 5,500 plus the 3,800. Now, we also had approved monies for the survey to be done at the Houghton Park, which that hasn't gone anywhere either. So that is looming. The hope was to get all those expenses covered in the last fiscal year, but that was not committed to a vendor. And once again, that gets back to the limited number of surveyors available and the world we live in. Okay, so moving forward, you'll see that there are several projects that we haven't really got much traction on, and it's something that we really need to see what we can do. The next one is listed as housing. You can see we allocated, the townspeople voted $17,500, and that was to do some investigation into how we could develop an approach to ensure that, for example, when the affordable units come up at Daymale, that there is a mechanism by which the town could ensure that they stay affordable rather than go to market rate.
Did anything come of that? or-
Nothing has come to that. No action has been taken as yet. So I'll bring that up with our town administrator to see what we can do
Yeah,
going forward.
That was supposed to be set up for.
We've talked in the past about having an affordable housing trust in town. That is a commitment of resources in terms of, it could be funded by the CPA monies, but you also need to populate it with people of knowledge and commitment. And so that was the issue related with the previous administrator. He didn't want to move forward on it because
Right.
he didn't see the town having the bandwidth basically to get it properly done. And that is something we could even consider if other communities wanted to form a regional affordable housing with CPA funds that we could become part of. Or any other number of ideas could be floated, but right now we've got nothing. Similarly, the Boynton Library has $70,000, set aside for work to be done there related to historic rehabilitation of the building. There'd been discussion that when they had a bequest that they would have a larger scale project to expand the library. But I have not heard much of that of the last couple of years. So that's just going to reside there. It's nothing that we need to concern ourselves with. If there became a need to see if we needed to uncommit that money, decommit it.
No.
Is
there
it like
room-
for like the maintenance or is it?
No, so it can't be used for maintenance and it
Okay.
can't be, general repairs. So
Right.
if they were to do a larger project, but there could be things like preservation, restoration, like pointing of all the brick or things like that.
Right,
So like if they wanted to add a wing or something to the building in the back.
I
or-
think initially that was part of the.
They were talking about using the bequest to do the addition and then to rehabilitate the existing building, because you can't use historic preservation money to build a new thing.
Right.
You can
Right.
rehabilitate or preserve an existing structure.
right.
So preservation of the existing building is fine. It just can't be considered routine maintenance.
Right.
So,
So what kind of thing could they add to the bill?
I know that I think advisory had, when they were reviewing some of these, I think there was a question about, I don't think it was this fund, but it was something else that the library trustees hold. And there was consideration about adding an additional wing at some point back in the past, but I don't think the library trustees have met to discuss that. So that
I
is
don't think
just,
they have many
They have
people
not.
on that.
So it was Mr. Nordford's left money to the
okay.
library.
Right.
And I don't know how much it was, but it was more than 70,000.
Yeah,
And then at that time, we said, okay, well, we could support that. If, here's some preservation funds.
right.
And so, obviously, if you look at the building, they put a new roof on it and things like that,
Right.
under general
Yeah,
maintenance.
it's pretty
but-
small.
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't,
so maybe, realistically, if you look at what other communities have done to put it, all of a sudden you're in $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's still in limbo. We'll have to discuss this with the library.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of space, especially like when you go in there to do things that, just have that front room and then the back room, and then you have the small, I mean, I guess there's some space up top. I think, I don't know if these are for storage. I don't think there's a basement to it.
There's a finished attic. there,
There's a
but-
finished attic,
yeah.
yeah.
But it's all storage.
Yeah, but there's not like if you look at it, you hear a lot of people in our communities talk about how they don't have like internet or they can't afford it. And I would have thought that the library had a lot more to offer for that in that building, but then you look at the space in it, there's no room to it. Like even where the librarian's office is, it's pretty small, like even like to do the things that they do in there.
Weren't they looking to get some kind of a fund or something and something happened? I don't remember. Mike was on it.
I hear there's a lot of, I haven't seen it yet, but I think because of COVID, I think they got a lot of book donations. I think there might be more like, because I don't think she's opened the children one. I don't think they've had story time and stuff yet.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since I went to story time.
Yeah, I was in there just recently, but I didn't look, I went in to pick up something, so.
I
don't
mean,
know.
frankly, an internet access point would be a great resource. What would you do to make
They
space for
have
it?
two
to
they have
books
two
out?
computer stations.
Yeah.
That have internet access.
Right, but
Yeah,
I'm
and then
saying is it's
Mars and-
small area, it's a small,
It's just a workstation.
yeah, you're right there with everybody. Like, there's no, like, you can't go into that back, like a back section or something where you can just work on a project, and just be, you're right. Like you walk in the door and there they are with the computer, or you go in and there's the children's library part. There's no extra area where you can work as if somebody in this town wanted to work on a project or something, or,
Yeah,
a
it's not
child.
happening
It's not
yet.
like Haywood, yeah.
Yeah, or you have like a homeschooler that's, older that, needs to utilize those kind of, things that, yeah, you go to the big Haywood, they have like a big section, like they have like rooms that they can go into, and you can have a private room. There's nothing like, not saying they need a private room, but just saying that you walk in the front door and there's those computers are like they're right there in the bank of the right. And there's only like two, was there
Yeah,
two of
two.
them? Yeah. So I could see why they could use it. I mean, a lot of people don't think the library, but libraries are very, very relevant, more than people realize.
Yeah, and it does still get a good
Yeah.
usage, and it's a
Reading-
great resource to have.
Reading on a tablet is not easy.
Right, yeah. Okay, so the next two projects are Scout Hall, and you can see that first one actually has been spent out. You'll recall last month we talked about the de-letting need. What I've seen to date on that is $538 for testing. I don't know if it's gone beyond that in terms of actual de-letting.
I think there needs to be specification. I think, I can't remember. The next thing that it would need to do is the deal letting would have to go up to bid. And if there's nothing on the website yet, then we haven't gone up to bid for it yet. But how do you go up to bid for that, I think is a question, because I don't think we've ever gone out to bid for deal letting. So I don't think we know what we require for that.
How does that work? Like, do they do like a special painting? I had an apartment that had lead issue in it. And I know that we took care of it but it was because it was underneath certain layers. Like, you're not supposed to disturb it.
Yeah, if it's at the surface, I think the first step is to contain it, to scrape it. You have to shut the place down, basically clean it out and
Yeah.
remove the paint. Covering it over is effective if it doesn't flake off. but
Right.
I don't really know for sure. So I'll set up a meeting with our town administrator to talk about going forward on these things, to see if there's things that we can do to support that
Is
going forward.
one of these accounts aimed at the de-letting? or
No, it's the general rehabilitation of the building, the historic building.
Yeah.
And so originally, monies were spent to improve the heating system so
Yeah.
that there wasn't mold or mildew.
How
or-
old is the building?
It's not,
Because there are things about de-letting and things that you can do if the building is a certain, of a older age. And then there's things that are like after the 70s, they expect you to do. you know, because you
Yeah,
can't
that building
preserve
was
that.
many,
Yeah.
many years
Well,
old.
it's Probably 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things that they
I
don't
get the
expect you
exact
to
day. We
do
have a
because it would,
survey
you would
form.
ruin the, you know, what, I don't know, the woodworking, the,
Right,
Oh,
but I,
I don't,
but I
there's
think
not a
for-
lot of the original woodwork left. in that.
Yeah, they got
It's been
everything that's left is
remarked
the
several
lead, I guess.
times.
oh,
Without care being taken.
So
just
we'll
would
have
love
to
to
get
see
an
that thing
update on that and
finished.
report back because we don't have the expertise to really to
When
move it
did
forward
this-
here.
When did this project start?
So 2016 was the beginning.
that's a long
Before
time.
that,
Well, that's the first
When we
town
did-
meeting vote.
we were down on Patriots Road when we first started with Scouts Hall. weren't we?
I feel like this thing.
No,
is
this
awesome.
building was done before Scout the Hall because we had to get in here first.
Yeah,
So
but
this was the
Scouts Hall
priority.
started along.
Oh.
Well, you can see here, this is from the accountant's records,
Yeah, but
2016.
this is an additional.
No, the second one is the additional one from 2019. So we voted $50,000 in 2016, of which we know have no money left because they spent that out. And then the second $50,000 was voted in 2019, and that has a balance of 45,000.
Well, this was back a long time ago when we first started with Scout Hall.
Well, there was not a CPA project until 2016 because we only had two
Well,
projects. in the
and
both was
We
CPA.
had several expenditures for this. We had, originally they were going to use it for the communication center.
We're gonna have, Dennis, you'll have to look up the warrant articles, but I'm indicating here that
These are the most recent expenditures.
you'll
Yeah, we had-
notice the
we had to
name of the
replace-
project right there
we had to replace
indicates
the
when it was
furniture.
voted.
Okay,
furnace,
yeah, I see it.
it's possible that if you're talking older expenditures, it was done out of free cash, probably. It probably could have been a fall town meeting or maybe an annual with free cash. Maybe that's.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's just that this thing is dragged on.
Well,
for
any
so long.
letting
Yeah.
come out of this money that's left, will you be able to use that? That expenditure money if they have,
Yeah, the de-letting.
yeah, because
Yeah,
that's,
it's part of the rehabilitation
Okay.
project. When the way
Making sure.
it's for the, you can't reuse a building if
Right.
you can't
you
enter.
can't use it, yeah.
And so it's not what was originally considered to be necessary, but you can't go forward without it. So I will set up a meeting with Adam and we'll report back next month on this.
This is just unforeseen circumstance.
Yeah, and those things come up.
Happen,
So, we'll certainly discuss it some more and see where they want to go on that.
Wow.
If it's something that has to go out to bid, it's not really happening overnight anyway.
Yeah,
And then
I
you'll see
just-
the other two items, the last two items are related to Stone Bridge, which that is also in limbo. Some monies have been spent in engineering work to evaluate, the different project possibilities. The town used some of its money to kind of come up with the plan A, plan B, plan C, to look at the cost of rebuilding the road. Now there's been discussion like, well, could they even just cancel that road without going through a process? Because, it was decided that we're going to close the road and take the bridge out, but do we go through the formal process that the state might require for that? So that's and I believe that, because there was an indication from our town administrator that may be the direction the town may need to take. I don't have any other information.
The last time I remember the select board talking about it, because the select board, for the acting road commissioners, that was part of the discussion, but part of the discussion was whether part of it would be kept as a road or not. And I don't know if there's been any action. I don't remember of any action since then, since that discussion happened. I don't know if they're willing to let it go as a road yet. So,
Yeah, and so the previous administrator was happy to move forward, but then there was like a, hey, wait a second moment. And
Right.
so.
When did the seniors move out of Scout Hall?
I don't
To their
know.
place? That was quite a while ago.
yeah.
Dennis, I can't argue with you on any dates other than what I see in print, because I don't remember.
I remember
time ago.
Steve, we were meeting with Steve way back. And I think
Steve, right,
initially it was supposed to be his place and then the committee that was set up, I know it
Yeah.
included Harry Aldridge on it. And
So this is what we have for this is what's all
these are
going
what
on.
we have on the books going forward right now.
Okay.
And
Now
like I
what do we
said,
get?
the balances of the accounts, I will hopefully get it summarized and shared with everybody in an email, but brought up at the meeting next month.
Okay.
Once I have that. And likewise, we've gotten, so that's it for the financial discussion as far as I have to present. Anything else anyone like to discuss related to finances?
Oh,
Okay. So as far as ongoing projects go, I reported back about, we kind of went through them with the financial end of it, but that's our next agenda item is current projects. And then we talk about potential projects. Obviously, the ongoing projects of the town, there's some unanswered questions. Dolly Farm is developing a plan to wrap theirs up. The Grange Hall, they're moving forward, but they're also looking to do another round of funding. They gave us an initial request. I've gotten some more details from them. Did I send that out to?
I don't.
I think I may have forgot to email it out, but it's a little bit more granular on the what are they looking to do with their money and how they come up with the cost. It's not an in-depth thing. I meant to share that with you guys if I didn't already. I apologize. Basically, they're asking for $75,000 from the town with the CPA. And and then the total cost is $250,000. We don't have details related in this application to the a more detailed pricing structure. So I did get another one pager. It's not in the form of formal quotes or anything like that. It's estimates of subcomponents. So let me send that out to everybody and let's bring that up at the next meeting.
Yeah, there was something on Facebook as late as today from Brian saying he's received a sizable check, $30,000, but our goal is to raise $250,000 in the next 2 years. So that's what
Okay, so they've already gotten 30.
they got 30. So they're on their way.
That's a good start. Okay. So let's, and I added on the agenda, the discussion of the CPC administrative assistant position. And, we brought it up at the last meeting. There were some questions. If you saw the note I got back from, that I forwarded, included, a word from our town administrator that the position, any associated costs with the position, like a computer, would be borne by the town as a town employee. So we wouldn't need to do anything more than come up with the money for the salary.
yeah.
In addition, this position would report to developmental services, which is Lori Weta is the supervisor for that. And then she would work with the CPC for the scope of duties and the ongoing work, et cetera. And they're not going to create a job description and a posting until, it's voted to go forward. And he did indicate that he thought it could turn around fairly quickly. We also discussed, there had been discussion about, the ebb and flow of work. Could we ask somebody, give them a set figure of hours per year and say, okay, you're gonna do 20 this week and
Yeah.
5 the next? The pushback was, hiring for a position, it's challenging to ask somebody is gonna set their schedule, and if they're taking a part-time job, they obviously have other obligations going on. And so they would be more inclined to want something that's more straightforward and expected hourly, figure. So 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 12 hours a week, something of that nature. That's not to say that in practice, that could be some modification, but if the applicant, if the job is advertised as 8 hours a week, and that's what the person accepts, then we would expect them to fill it in an 8-hour-a-week format. Now, I went through and I looked at, some of the things that we have to do and what kind of the time frame is for that. Clearly, we have a monthly meeting, and that's what this is right here. So I'll just go down with these things and we can talk about it. And so I coordinate the CPC correspondence with the chair. So I maybe the first thing I sent you, I didn't sort it in this fashion, so it may not be exactly. Does your start with coordinate CPC correspondence?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
starts with coordinate, yeah.
Okay, And that would, so that I categorize that as communication and records, which would be one of the big job components of this on a weekly basis. So that would be basically 2 hours a week. That's responding to emails. That would be also setting up an email account for CPC at templetonmass.gov. They created one for me, but somehow my Microsoft had embedded another name for that because I've used it for work. And then, so I couldn't extract this separate email from other email accounts created by, is that Microsoft 365 or what is the?
Microsoft, it'd be under Microsoft 365.
Yeah, so I have Microsoft 365 on my computer because I used my home computer to do Access Work stuff, and now it keeps thinking I'm my work person. And so I was conflicted. I couldn't figure out how to open it because it kept sending me the other thing, and I wasn't tech savvy enough to open 2 accounts. It's probably likely that I could have done. So they didn't want to pay for it anymore, so they killed it. And so everybody just sends me emails to my personal address, which, that's out there. It's fine, whatever. This position would be responsible for, they would have the inbox and all mail would be directed to that, and then they could distribute it accordingly. And that's a much more professional way to act anyway. Here's how you connect to the CPC, general mailbox account. Just like if you are posted on the thing, on the system, you will get a request saying somebody wants to contact you. Is that okay? Because they know your personal address is behind your email. Now it's like it goes to this box and this administrative person would monitor that box and respond and be available to communicate with the general town's departments as well. So, 2 hours a week is probably an underestimate of what that could be. But that's what I came up with. And so that would be getting back and forth with the chairperson or directly to the committee if so appropriate. Just to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. And those things that fall through the cracks could be things like timing of bills and projects going forward. So organizing and maintaining records, that was another hour a week. So 4 hours a month. And so right now we really need to have a repository of records. We post the meeting minutes online. Documentation is kept, financial documentation is kept by the accountant, but we should have copies of everything available at the town office. And I know that there's been an indication that we could secure some space for a filing cabinet or something in this building,
I think so.
if maybe down in the basement. Okay, so and just stop me. Anything we need to discuss further. Review bills with the chair, prepare the vendor warrant for signature. Fortunately, Holly can do it now that she can set it up for an e-signature, so I can e-sign things rather than having to fax, or scan it, because I don't go into I don't always have access to that.
I don't like this job. I don't like any kind of with the finance per se. I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I feel like that belongs to the chair.
Well, nothing gets approved or put forward without the chair
I know.
signature, but the preparation of
So strictly
documents. and-
But even with this,
Administrative
with East, like, I always I always feel like when it comes to finances, I feel like it has to be straightforward when it comes to bills and stuff like that with the, you know what I mean? That final, like anybody could just, you know what I mean, on your approval, like it could come to, it finds to me like a slippery slope where I've seen people do this, like, husband and a wife or whatever, somebody, signs that person, you know what I mean? So I'm always iffy about like who gets in charge of like a finance, like everything else I'm cool with, but
A little old fashioned like.
yeah, I feel like,
Well,
yeah,
I think there's certainly going to be checks and balances
right.
set in place.
That's what I just
here.
want to make sure that it's not someone could just say, could you just sign it for me? You know what I mean? I just want to, like, I'm not,
And I don't
of
think they're going
assistant
to so
doing it.
much be signing anything as just keeping track,
right,
record keeping.
right. But you have to read everything, like they're doing that warrant, like that's a bill, like, you know what I mean? It just makes me nervous.
Yeah, so our warrants are much simpler than the town warrants because they have all the business of the town. We have this
Right.
list of 12 projects and everything is assigned to that project. And every
Okay.
project has a recipient who's the proponent. If it's a
Right.
town project, it goes to the select board, it goes to, Concom or
Okay.
whatever. But if it's a private contractor, then it's up to us to confirm with them that they have received the goods and services.
Okay,
Yes,
And I'll just say, because I'm on a smaller board, but all of us do the same thing that John does. We all show up, we sign Luann's bills and pay, not payroll, that's done through Kelly's office, but we'll go through and we'll sign, like the last bill that I just signed had to do with vision software. So I go through and I sign it. That all gets put in with the select board's packet when they approve the final weekly warrants.
right,
They can see all of that on top of it. And you do need somebody, because it's not, we talked a little bit earlier about the emails and stuff. They're gonna have to communicate with the town accountant and the assistant town accountant to know what are the account numbers, what are the final balances, can you actually, commit this before it gets presented to the chair for signature. And then after that's done, it'll go through what it needs to do in the town treasurer's office, and then it'll go over to the select board, who will also see it. So whenever I understand your concerns, but even when an independent board like the Board of Assessors signs for something,
Yeah.
it still goes to the select board and they have to approve the final warrant that it'll go
Okay.
out on.
okay. I just want to make sure this checks and balance, like, you just say it and then you give it to the job. And the next thing you know, I didn't ask the question. And the next thing you know, I'm like, what?
Right, and I
Just
I
making
think
sure.
also part of your concern is like right now, John's been chair as long as the committee's existed. Am I correct?
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, one day he won't be chair anymore
Right.
as long as this committee
And
exists.
somebody else would,
And
yeah,
we're a big enough group that you could have like a small group of 3 people go in. If it ever got to that point where people really weren't comfortable with who was doing it or what have you, but we haven't crossed that bridge yet. But there are checks and balances where we have to make sure that the person doing it is doing it responsibly when we come to the table and we see the final finances every so many months or every quarter.
yeah. I
Right,
just didn't want any
there's-
surprises.
If there's a mistake or
Right.
something,
Yeah,
who ends up being responsible?
because it's not like our town never had any.
Well,
Good
frankly,
money,
the
right?
interaction with the
Yeah.
finance needs to be greater than it is now anyway, because specifically, getting a report, I get copied on the monthly, expenditures.
Yeah.
You get this big, long thing, okay, where's the CPA accounts? And so for me to create this spreadsheet, I have to go and cut and paste and copy and do all that. So even preparing stuff so that's easier for us to
Right.
review, that will reduce the mistakes that could be made by this committee. If we have somebody whose job it is to make sure that we have an appropriate report, so that every month I don't come here and say, oh, I didn't get this, or I forgot to do that. No, this is part of your duties, is to give us a report on what we spent. These are the bills that you need to approve, and we could do a better job as a committee rather than just relying on one person to sign off on the thing, bring it forward, and now we've got it in a nice packet rather than, less structured than it has been historically.
Right. Well, they could talk with Kelly every 2 weeks or every week, depending on how much they would need to interact with her. And they'd be an employee of the town, so they would get all of the monthly BBAs. So they would see things, they would know where it is on the list. And because the CPA accounts are all over the place on the BBA because of the way that they're allocated and stuff. It's not like a single department where it's just like plump in one section. It's like, it's at the end and then you have to cut it out and you have to look at when everything's done and actually know what they were for, kind of like a special article sheet. So it's,
It would be, for me, an ideal would be that this person learns the skills and can generate a report. The data are there, but they're running their reports in the format that they do because they have all these other obligations. So this person would say, okay, I need to run the CPA report so that it just spits it out. I mean, we shouldn't have to go through 27 pages of, coffee cups to figure out.
They
what-
work
what-
at home or they work in here?
the primary role will be here. There will be a desk allocated here. So let's just go through these. I know we're gonna run out of time before we get, I don't know how everybody's set for other items. But let me just go through some of the things and some of the thinking, and you guys
Okay.
continue to chime in because that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do here. Okay, so 10 monthly meeting, take and edit reviews, minutes for review, post upon approval, check for spelling. coordinate monthly with accountant and prepare updated financial spreadsheet for monthly meeting review. That's a thing I was just talking about. Yes,
Monthly meetings, sometimes there might be occasions where we might have more than a monthly meeting. So meetings as scheduled might be better.
yes. There is a thing down here that talks about other meetings, but let's see. I think attend developmental service department and other municipal functions. Yeah, no, so we would say meetings.
Okay.
So that person would also do the minutes and get them posted and cleaned up as well. So that would be off your plate, Dennis. We'd obviously be reviewing it. You would be the clerk still. Coordinate with project managers for updates and support. Now you'll see that I wrote this in at 12 hours a month, which is 3 hours a week functionally. And that is like connecting with ongoing projects, whether it's a town project or it's an external project or it's a potential project and you have advocates for it, just to try to share with that person and communicate so that this person can bring it back to the board when decisions need to be made or direction needs to be provided. You know, that's one thing we don't have with the volunteer group is this presence of who do I call, when do I call? I'll send an email and hopefully he'll respond quickly. But as opposed to, okay, CPA office hours will be Tuesdays at 2 or something like that, you know, or, you know, a better face, a more structured environment is what I'm hoping that we can attain. And so as part of that, this person would be attending whatever departmental meetings there are, because there's, you know, communicating with others within the organization is so important to help, you know how things go and what needs to be done and how people can share the work or you know, help each other along. And there may be other town meetings that they need to attend as well. Okay, review the bills, prepare vendor warrant for signature, prepare annual and special town meeting warrant articles in coordination with the chair and the committee, and coordinate with the town administration for legal and BOS review, you know, the drafting up of the articles or things like that. You know, I do all that stuff, but this person would be able to support that. And you know, I'm not trying to shun all the duties of the chair, but I'm kind of listing the things that get done, and maybe this doesn't go to the admin person. But at least by bringing it up, everybody sees that these are the kind of things that have to happen. Like this annual needs analysis meeting, you know, that we have to post in the Gardner News for 2 consecutive weeks, or this, that, and the other thing. We're looking still, I've asked, because I think the town is looking to go to an electronic notification as an allowance for public meeting notices. Is that?
I know we've explored it because we've been having issues with the Gardner News. I know that that's across the board.
Yeah.
It's not been reliable for anything.
So why should we have to post it where nobody reads it anyway? We should be, you know, but you have to do it to satisfy the legal statute.
Yeah.
And if the legal statute says, yeah, or post it on your website.
Yeah.
You know, that makes all the sense in the world, because that's where everybody goes for information now, first place to go. But anyway, we need to have that in the coordinated schedule, advertise, whatever else would need to happen with that, and then report back out, generating reports. Not just relying on one guy spewing all meeting long. Coordinate the annual CP3 report with the chair. So the CP3 report is what we have to do that kind of gives an update of the projects that we have funded and ongoing, those that have closed, those that are new, and that gets submitted every year and by September 15th. And that's part of the process of getting the matching funds released, which is now November 15th. The assessor also has to do a CP1 report, which is a reporting of all of the billing that has gone out for that. And the deputy assessor does that. And that, they look at the abatements and things like that. The billing, the matching fund is driven by the billing, not by the receipt. And so whatever gets billed in taxes is what they use to create the match. And so if people haven't paid their taxes, doesn't mean that we're not going to get our match, basically. But abatements and things like that, there's also the exemption that needs to be calculated for the first $100,000, et cetera, et cetera. And so working with the assessor's office will continue to be important, especially as, things evolve in that office. It may be a function that might be required more duties within the CPA. I mean, obviously the responsibility of the assessors are not going to change.
Right, our responsibilities aren't gonna change, but, and this isn't a secret, because we've had a couple of public meetings about it, we're looking for a new deputy assessor for next calendar year. So it's possible that the new assessor that comes in comes from a community that's never worked with CPA before, and all of a sudden they need to commit, and they, okay, what's the CP1 form, what's all this stuff, and then, I mean, my board will be familiar with that, the board that I'm a part of, but that assessor may not, and so it may be helpful to have an on-staff person who says, yes, this is typically how it looks in the system. I mean, I can see it in DLS, in the DLS gateway and stuff, and they may have to coordinate with Kelly and stuff, just Kelly and Cheryl can see everything to the town accountant and the town treasurer, but that, yeah, I mean, that's gonna be important so that they are on top of it versus just relying on a single person.
So right now, all that's basically most of the stuff you're doing.
Well,
No, not you. I'm talking about him, the chair.
Things that need,
the little
This
thing.
is a
Yeah.
lot that you're doing for free. Whoa.
Well,
Just,
Gee, maybe we
I'm
should
just
think of
like
what we got.
shocked. I'm just shocked. I'm sorry, but I'm shocked. This is a lot.
I'm thinking of applying if we create.
You're right, because you have the experience.
No, I'm not looking for Joe.
This
Okay, so, and as a result, there are a lot of things that we could be doing better. We could be more transparent, would be, we could focus on other things and, I'm only, not that great at a lot of things, so we could focus on, the other things that we need to do, developing projects, working closely, and you'll see on here some of these ongoing things that we want to talk about. So first, communicate with the associated committees regarding the CPC seats and coordinate the appointments with the town clerk. Every board needs to do their appointments. Right now, there's a 2-year, it's indicated as 2 years in the bylaw. I would like to see that. We also do need to change the bylaw related to the CPC, and I've had discussions with Adam specifically, we need to reference Parks and Recreation as opposed to, parks as the seat.
Yeah.
But also, one thought that I had is that the appointed boards seats should be 3 years as well, because,
oh, yeah.
the voted positions are 3 years. So why not make the planning board, the conservation board, 3-year positions? Because as it's turned out, it's been the same people since forever. Originally, we thought, okay, we'll do 2 years and they can turn it over, and every 2 years somebody else could do it. But there's, historical has had a few people. Dennis has been here for planning since forever. George has always been conservation.
I was conservation originally.
Okay, George was conservation after Joanne left, but she's back. So anyway, that's a separate point.
What about open space since 2000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't have a seat on this though. Right.
They don't have a seat.
Yeah, it's only been me and you and Carrie.
looks
and
pretty
off and
good.
on. Okay, and then, so these ongoing things, and the point I wanted to make is that, if there was concerns about, there's not gonna be enough to do, but we have a lot of things to do to bring it up to snuff, to really be, kind of 21st century or even, late 20th. Developed a CPC webpage and related outreach items. I mean, the town has its website, so we could have links that would give more information. We have an application that we created in 2007, that said, bring us 10 hard copies. Like, nobody wants to kill that many trees anymore. And so reviewing and editing the application materials, we'd love to have it be a fillable form. I mean, that's how things work now. You shouldn't have to write it in, and scan an email, but you could do and I think the town might have the software to do fillable
Yeah, we
forms.
do. Some of the employees have Adobe Acrobat Pro DC that we can work on, but only a few of us because it is an expensive program. So.
Yeah, so, and then if there's a license cost for that, that could be something that this committee could discuss purchasing if it was a bottleneck or something, but preferably not. Keep current with statewide CPA matters and update the CPC. There's always things changing. They're always talking about changing the laws. That Community Preservation Coalition does a nice job of outreach and things like that. But, professional development should be part of this person's role, because that's how you make and grow somebody. And who knows, as the town continues to grow, there's going to continue to be more funds generated for this and more needs as well. Therefore, it's important to keep people invested. I mean, I know this is just a part-time job, but you need to have some training. You need to know how the town functions, may need to know some systems. There may need to be some training, time spent, even if it's just sitting down with somebody. This is what I do, We're hopeful, I'm hopeful that if we create this position, we can find somebody from town that thinks this is a great fit for the time they have available, and they're willing to jump in and stay and do it for some period of time. That's not always the case. Who knows? But right now it isn't anything because we don't have it. And so if you look on the right-hand side of the sheet, you'll see that I calculated, and based on an hourly rate of $18 an hour, what it would cost us to go forward. And I was thinking about this as I came in, because this would be an annual appropriation, because it would come out of the administrative budget that is only allocated annually. But it could be right in that annual town meeting warrant article, if it were to say, how we do the 5% set aside for the administrative budget, we would say, and $20,750 for administrative budget, including X number of dollars for a CPC administrative assistant position. And so in May, that person who's been working there and has money until June 30th will know that it's good to go. They don't have to wait for another CPC
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
But we have to get to that point first. If we did and so I calculated all these hours, and magically it came out to exactly 12 hours a week, or 624 hours a year to do these things that I've listed. That at $18 an hour for a year would cost us $11,232. So more than 50% of our administrative budget. I listed on here the 10-month cost, because really that's realistically what it's going to be for this year, because there's no way we would get this position filled probably before September. It's not even created. If it was approved, it would have to be created, posted, interviewed. And so a hiring date of September would give us a 10-month year. If it was 10 hours a week, it would be 520 hours per year, $9,360. So now we're below 50% of the administrative cost. And if it was 8 hours, which I can't see going less than that, because that's just 20% time, it would cost an annual cost of about $7,500 at an $18 an hour rate.
How much was our administrative fund this past year?
So it's $20,750.
So
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
that's about, no, not quite half of it.
Well,
Yeah.
for my part, at the last meeting, we asked you to do this, and I think you did a real good job of it. I'll compliment you on that. I think the funding that you have laid out is reasonable. The need is obvious. So I'm in favor of proceeding with this. So I don't know what the last question is. Is it just how many hours a month to?
How much money would the committee appropriate in the current fiscal year for this position from its administrative budget?
So for just this fiscal year, and you're right, it'll probably turn into a 10-month year for this position. So if we were to go with the 10-month figure that you have here, with that the $7,800, that's a 10-hour week.
That's an 8 hour week.
That's it. Yeah.
I got
Yeah, no, that's the 10-hour week.
That's a 10-hour week.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah.
$7,800 is 10 hours, 12 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I put 10 months.
I was
Yeah,
just
versus
I'm
12
looking,
months.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, that makes
sorry.
more sense.
Yep.
Okay, one's a
Sorry,
40.
I-
No, I
one's a
kind of knew
40.
that, and
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't get that little block either.
yeah, I know.
Well, 10 hours.
That's why I
yeah,
said
no,
you
I
did a great job.
knew that.
I
Shouldn't- I
know.
should have harped on it.
We missed that middle column.
Okay, though, with that
For a
being
full
said,
year, It
though,
would be 9,300.
we have to revisit it the following year,
Yeah,
where if we voted for the
Five.
full now, then we wouldn't have to revisit it.
no, we still have to revisit it every year.
We do,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And so the point is that, whatever we choose for the hours, we couldn't say, okay, let's do 12 hours this year because it's only 10 months and next year we're only going to do 10. That's not appropriate.
Right.
And so I think a 10-hour, because even at 9360, that's still less than our budget. And the way the town has grown,
Yep.
we're going to see an increase based on taxes?
based on the commitments. I think it would, if we did appropriate something, maybe it would be appropriate to do the full 12 months because we don't know in the first couple of weeks or if something, random comes up with town meeting or something and, they need to go to another committee's meeting because it has something to do with us, if they might go over those 12 or those 10 or 12 hours per week. So I think we should, whatever option we choose, it should probably be for the 12 months. They may not use all of it. And I would encourage that,
Well,
they
you could-
don't, but it would prevent us because if you know what I mean? If we run into needing more hours just on it, they may work less hours one week and then they may work a bunch of hours the next week because we are preparing and we're, a bunch of people show up for something or they have to go to town meeting and they have to prepare a bunch of documentation ahead of that because there's a bunch of questions that we can see down the pipe.
Yeah, and that seems really reasonable because, 1 month there may not be anything and then the
Right.
next month we could have a lot.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you could just set us if you look at all these figures, you just say $10,000 and for the year. I mean, you could just do that. I mean, it breaks down close to what you guys are saying.
Well, that will then tie up that money though, if we're not
Oh,
gonna
okay.
spend it.
Yeah, okay.
So I like what
Specific,
I'm
okay.
hearing though, in terms of telling the Board of Selectmen that we are authorizing an expenditure of up to $9,360 for
Yes.
a 12-month, for a 10-hour a week position at $18 an hour, understanding that, it may not be that much, but
Right.
it's better to.
You don't spend the money if they don't work the hours, so.
Yeah, and it all will be based on, once they're hired, and then we'll have to work with the person. So in a 2-week time frame, if you get paid every 2 weeks, now you're saying it's 20 hours for 2 weeks, but if you post a job as a 10-hour a week position, then that's what everybody is entitled to expect. There could be discussion. I don't know the HR language of, flexible hours upon,
I would just be like plus or
Don't get
minus
caught
10
up in the
hours.
details. You're gonna
Yeah.
get too far down. the
Right,
weeds.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
not-
that's just, yeah.
Okay, so
You're
are
right.
we, what about you, Jeff?
Supervision?
So the supervisor will be Lori,
Lori,
and,
okay.
and that would be the direct day-to-day report, but the chairperson of this committee and this committee itself would be the ultimate responsible party. In other words, in terms of reviewing what needs to be done but she will, and she's aware of this and she, she's a wonderful employee, so,
Well,
was the
we-
other
you
concern.
vote every year, and every year, I mean, for the budget for this position. So in a way, that's also a check on it, you know what I mean? If it's not working out, you're not gonna say yes to it.
right, yeah, and it's the person would need to know that it's subject to annual appropriation, and that would have
Yeah.
to be in the job posting, and frankly, it could change based on, hey, okay, we only needed 8, or hey, we need 18, how are we gonna do that? Maybe there's a
Yeah.
shared person, or this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, there are meetings that we sometimes don't actually have either, so even the
Yeah.
schedules.
So am I hearing a motion to
I'm
approve?
starting to draft a.
Okay,
So what's the hourly pay that we're talking about?
I believe that rate was $18 an hour. Now Dennis had in his minutes 17, but it's my recollection that 18 was what they were looking at. I mean, frankly, $18 is not a lot of money anymore.
no.
All right. I mean, we
All
may
right, so
not-
this is what I got for a draft. CPC recommends the creation of an administrative assistant position consisting of a 10-hour work week, $18 per hour, up to a total of $9,360 per year.
Yes, so what we are doing is we're approving $9,360 to
Yes.
be allocated for the creation of this 10-hour a week position with anticipated rate of pay of
Why
$18.
don't you write it?
Well, the only reason I'm,
It's totally,
Just as you write it,
Maybe I could probably,
he's good at this.
I would move to authorize the amount of $9,360 from the CPC's administrative budget for the purposes of hiring a CPC administrative assistant.
second.
okay, keep it simple.
Do we have to-
Very nice.
Can you write that down so we can get
I will
it?
write that down.
Thank you.
We just need to, right, vote the dollars in the source
And,
and the use.
okay.
And the details
What
are all
about,
gonna be
what about
worked
the
out.
description of jump?
That
you
will
say
allow
so?
them to create the job description and start the
All
wheels
right, you did-
rolling.
You did say that before.
Yeah.
But they're gonna have the same
Yeah.
information in front of them that you gave us.
And then we will be working with them and the position will not be approved. I think a position description will still need to be approved by us. We're just saying now that the money is going to be committed,
Okay.
you can create the position with our consultation.
All right, I'll second that motion.
Everybody's
Okay.
saying that.
Oh. sorry.
Once you third it.
All right, is there any discussion, further discussion?
No.
We beat it to death.
Okay, I think we still have to do a person by person vote. So are you good on the motion? Then
He's
you've
putting
got
it
it all.
right.
Yeah, I got it written down, so we're good.
Okay, but motion has been made and second for the expenditure of $9,360 from the CPC administrative account for the creation and funding of a part-time CPC administrative assistant. All those in favor, I'm going to poll you, starting with Candace,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Joanne?
Yes.
Justice?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous, 6-0. Thank you. And I will inform the town administrator. He sent a note this evening saying, let us know how it goes. So, okay. Any other discussion on that item?
Nope.
Okay, moving on. Do you have any new business to discuss?
Yes, we do. Today, we did some reconnaissance work in the field with Terry Griffiths. Let's see, Mr. Curtis from the safety. Yes, he went with us, and Beth Lambert from Ecological Restoration. We went out and looked at 3 different places, Depot Pond being one. We looked at down from the river's edge. There's still like a spillway and some cement abutments. We looked at that too, and we looked at the Otter River Pool. It was the consensus that as far as Depot Pond, there's nothing we can do. The town does not own it. So, but with safety in mind, if something did happen, then, you know, for safety reasons, the town may have to step in, Mr. Curtis said. And then down from the river's edge, certainly we would have to contact Army Corps of Engineers before we could do, you know, anything on that one.
The problem with that old Turner factory, you know, impediment in the river, it's been discussed many years, many times, but there's the PCBs.
Right, and we discussed that as
Okay.
well. We did. So, of course, they would have to, you know, take samples and things like that. But I do remember at one point, the snowmobile club wanted to put in a crossing right there, and we denied them, I think, on the Conservation Commission at the time, but we sent them right to Army Corps and they denied them too. So it's a tricky business to start digging around in the river because we don't know
Right.
how much is settled. And you don't want to get that stuff moving downstream and then it ends up in the Millers and then it ends up in the Connecticut. So that one's going to be tricky. Then we went to the Otter River Pool. And this is prime location for dam removal. The town owns a property. And for restoration, I have to say, nature is really taking over down there. But we do need to, that structure that is there right now is not good. It is really deteriorating. And it's just a matter of time before it collapses. So in talking to Beth Lambert about this, she did recommend, and I didn't know if we could use CPA money, but she said a dam removal assessment. So when we were looking at this and there was conservation money, because that property is carrying custody of the Conservation Commission. Or if CPA administrative money could be used for that, or if that would be something that we would have to put on the warrant.
It seems to me that that would be a ripe one for that conservation fund.
Right,
And therefore, the way that's supposed to work is conservation should initiate it and vote to spend it. And then they would
Right.
let us know that it's a request. And, as you noted before, that a conservation fund is for conservation.
right.
And if $8,000 is enough, then it's a done deal.
And then from there, once we make out the application, which there's no new funding, they're hoping this spring. We would put in an application and, of course, the state would be paying for most of the rest of it. They do like to see in kind, or if it's possible, at all for the town or anyone else to, contribute. They like to see that as well, but that she did kind of say a couple of times if there was any way we could get the assessment done. She says it's difficult to get that part of it through them. So,
Yeah, if she recommended some organization to connect with to get a pricing, and then if conservation requested it because it was within that dollar figure, I mean, that is what the conservation fund was designated for, and it would be a good use of those monies, in my opinion. And then as far as going forward, if the state is going to put the bill for the removal and restoration work that needs to be done, I mean, a small CPA project could be, setting up passive recreation or, planting trees or things like
Right.
that down there. And, that would be nice.
One of the things I was going to point out is that the parcel that Joanne was talking about has a recreation restriction on it according to the Registry of Deeds. So that's something that we have to keep in mind, that does have to be used for passive recreation once that gets done. Because I think that I know that Terry, I've gone out there with you at least once. That was way
Right,
before
I
even
brought-
came
I
to
brought-
this committee.
I brought that, also up to Terry's attention.
Yeah.
When we tried to do this before, we realized there was, but like passive recreation is fun.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
trail.
Sure, but anybody can go fishing in there. It's been designated as cold water fishery. I think that might help bump us up on the list. With the ecological restoration program. So, but it's kind of just to get things rolling. They like to see this assessment.
Yeah, and then that's how it often works with, the state is like, okay, they can do a lot of things, some things they can't do so much, and they do need local, buy-in, and so if we have that, and does anybody else have any thoughts?
The dam at the Outer River Pool is in poor condition. Is it holding back any water?
Not much.
No, so it wouldn't have any impact if it was removed.
No.
Okay.
No, because quite a few years ago, somebody, I don't know who, and I don't want to, point fingers at anybody, but we were in a flooding situation, very high water. And they went and removed all the boards out of the spillway all at once.
Okay.
And
I
all the
remember.
sediment
I remember
went
hearing about that.
downstream. So it was just like having a catastrophic failure. They
Where does
just
that go
caused
from
it
the Otter
really.
River? Goes down into the Otter River, right?
It does.
By Siemens, yeah.
Yeah, I think it goes on the 60.
Yeah.
It must be
So-
upstream from Siemens.
But they would also test the sediment too. And as it's not holding back much right now, but the structure itself, I mean, it is eroding. It's very dangerous. And I recommended to Mr. Curtis and Terry Griffiths that because you cannot restrict access to conservation land, recreation land, conservation land, but they need to put some kind of sign there. It is
Danger.
bad. To at least cover the town, that they did something to warn people, don't go here. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that to us. And are you willing to reach out to conservation to talk about it?
Sure. I've already talked to George a little bit and I absolutely will. Sure.
That sound reasonable? Okay,
All
great.
right.
Thanks. Any other new business?
I'd like to talk about something. Watching last night's selectmen meeting, there was a lot of discussion about signage on Templeton Common. And currently, there's a ban on signage, private signs on Templeton Common that have been put in place by the selectmen. And last night's meeting, there were members of the public who wanted to open that back up or open it in some limited amount, some limited way. One of the things that came up during the meeting was that some of our surrounding communities, in particular, they were talking about Hubbardston, in order to do away with these plastic lawn-mounted signs that seem to be propagating everywhere. They came up with a plan where they have town sponsored signs for businesses that are put on the street sign posts. So they're uniform in appearance, they're aesthetically more pleasing than these plastic signs that you see everywhere. And there was some discussion about the town because they don't want to wait for a long period of time. Some of the members of the public were here. We're talking about the impact on the agricultural businesses that normally advertise up on the common. And so the time was of the essence is really what it boiled down to. So there was some discussion about getting some signage and maybe the town paying to get it put together and as a form of relief so that we don't have these signs all over the common. We have something more uniform, aesthetically pleasing, pointing down the roads to where these businesses may be. So I didn't know if CPC money would be appropriate for that. Currently, the restriction is only in Templeton Center, which is the Templeton Historical District. So in a way, it is under historic preservation type program. So I didn't know if we should reach out perhaps to the town administrator and see if there was any action being formulated on that. And if so, perhaps we could help with some of the funding for that signage.
Regarding Hubbardston, are you talking about the ones that hang from the light poles as you go?
I
down
don't
Main
know. I
Street?
didn't see him
Okay.
personally. The way it was.
Probably, yeah, on 68.
Yeah, I don't know about Hubbardston, but if you look at Gardner, I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, they put up poles. And then on the poles that there are signs that go into sleeves. So the businesses could get a certain thing and they go inside the sleeves and they run. Especially organizations like the Lions Club or see, this was the race that I did, but it worked out really well. The way they had it until there was they had to take them because they were doing construction on the road. So they had to take them down, some of them down. But it reminds me of that old fashioned, like you see in the olden days, like they have the lights and stuff like that, except you having signs on it. So it didn't take away, it doesn't take away, it actually enhanced. So I can see something like that, but I don't even know if
Different communities that I've seen have addressed it different ways. Some have a central location where all signs go and there'll be like a pterodactyl type of thing where it's three-sided and it's got a little roof over it and maybe even lighting, and you can put your signage on that, but it's the only place you can put it. But until some official means or some a bylaw is put in place to control it, they were trying to find a
That's
quick
tough-
remedy.
That's a tough situation.
Yep.
Because I really support businesses in town and they need to be able to advertise.
But not at the expense of the
But-
public.
Well, I mean, I agree, the conglomeration of signs is pretty distracting when you're driving by. too.
There was one day I counted 15 signs on the common,
Yeah.
one day.
I can imagine. but
and it gets out of control.
It's just, I don't know how you're gonna do that.
Well, that's what.
Yeah,
Well, let me just say that I think it's a great idea that the town come up with some plan to do something to support these businesses, but I just don't see any connection to the CPA.
Okay.
Because it's, historic preservation, community housing, open
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
recreation, and I don't see, that.
So getting like a pole to enhance the common, that wouldn't come
Well, if you were
under
to
it.
keep the small lawn signs that proliferated up there and had them in one location, you don't consider that a improving the aesthetics of the historical district.
Yeah, it's kind
kind
of
of
a
a
fine
stretch.
line
Yeah.
there.
I do
Okay,
think
all
it's a stretch. Now, I wouldn't.
wanted to- that's why I
putting in
wanted to bring it
granite
up.
curving or something
Yeah.
like-
Yeah, yeah.
what about the lighted sign that they have for announcing town?
But like the school like
The orange,
has,
the orange one
Yeah,
on
the
wheels.
school also has one.
yeah, they have that light up thing. That is-
Well,
Yeah,
they were
the-
talking about that too, but I don't want to go down a rat hole there.
Yeah, I
I mean,
know,
there's a
that's-
lot of ways it can be dealt with. I just didn't know if CPC funds might be
I mean,
available for
It's
signing.
even for safety reasons of having all signs there as
Mhm.
a distraction for
Yes.
drivers.
But we have that old case that was there because we didn't have the central,
Well, that
Town
belongs to
hall.
the Templeton Women's Club. They
Oh,
paid
does
to
it?
have that put up
okay.
and it's actually electrified.
Oh, is it really?
Now, I don't know what the plans are for that. They talked about that last night at the selectmen's meeting as well.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if the Templeton Women's Club is active any longer.
I'm the vice president.
You are? Oh, I know Shirley Barnes was
Did you
involved when
know
they
that was
first
your
put that
son-
up.
Your thing?
Well, I will do some research to see if there's any examples of any other committees doing something similar with
Okay.
CPA. But off the top of my head, I don't see a
All right.
connection.
That's why I just wanted to throw it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dennis?
Open space, anything you want to golf course?
I've heard nothing, I've done nothing.
Okay. I don't know if you remember, many years ago, we talked about land up on the end of French Road, South Road, being available. Well, just to let you know, we just gave away the last 9 lots before the town line for A&Rs. So all that land is gone. It's built out, not only Route 2A, French Road, South Road, Gray Road.
Well, what's gonna happen next? They'll start tearing houses down and putting subdivisions behind the ANRs. In the next wave. It's unfortunate, yeah. So we did talk about needing to have a posting to kind of encourage people to, if you have a thought of an open space property that could be protected. I didn't do any action on that, but that's
When you
something
have your administrative assistant, they can. do
that would help.
Right.
So our administrative assistant can do that. We're gonna get that person hired.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Any other new business?
Oh, I was gonna say, so speaking of open space, I know that I had emailed out to the immediate past chair of the open space committee, which is Carrie, and she's not here tonight. I was going to try and get from her the not finalized, but almost complete open space plan. And I just got from Select Board Member Bennett and Select Board Member Griffiths, the recognizance report, and then from the 2010 master plan, because I know at last meeting, we talked a lot about open space, but we didn't know like specific locations, and we're talking about places that have deed restrictions. And so I took it upon myself and I kind of created a list of all the parcels in town that are under the name of the town or that are under the name of, that we're co-owners of, but some of those are going to go up to bid and some of those are not really something that we could do anything with. I don't know if this committee would want me to move forward with getting all the property cards and getting all of the deeds for that, so we could see an actual list of what do we own, what is its current state,
Mm.
because we keep juggling, and I don't think we have any concrete ideas on what to do with open space if we don't see it on paper. This is what we own.
Right.
Yep.
That's something like I know how to go into the Worcester Registry of Deeds and do that. I can get the property cards from Luann. It's not really that bad. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Is that something that we want to do and bring it up at the next meeting so I can present that to you guys?
That sounds
I think
great.
it's a great
Yeah, I
idea.
think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. No
Unanimous.
problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, how do you know what you're talking about unless you got it in front of you? And
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost
Thank
like a
you.
first right of refusal type of thing. Do we want to get involved with it or do you want the town to auction it? So we should probably get first crack
Yeah, and
at
if
it.
there's like a tax title taking list,
Yeah, so that'll also be listed if on anything that is a tax title that may go up to bid or something, you'll see that on the property card immediately because it'll say this is how we got it. For it was tax titled, or there'll be a code that says this is how we got it for tax. It'll be one or the other. It'll either say it on the property card, this is how we took it, or it's state, we have to code everything with numbers. The number will indicate whether it was taken by tax title in some cases. It's one way or the other how we document it. So we'll know that, and I kind of know just from the stuff that goes on and what we get asked in the assessor's office, what some of the properties might be that we might be looking to put out to bid, that would, like, for an easy one is 10 Pleasant Street. We're trying to deal with that property. We're trying not to keep that property on the town so that we can put it back under the tax rolls. So you'd see that on the report of town property that we have, but we would know that was taken through tax title. We put it out to bid. It failed because it has the burnt structure on it that needs to get demolished. That, we've gone to town meeting and we've gotten, I don't remember if we went to town meeting, got money out of free cash to deal with that, but I know that that is a conversation of how do we demolish and deal with that structure. I think that's where the demo, thinking of like a few things at once, but
I
you get
think
what I'm
that was
saying.
at town.
That was
last
it.
time,
That
maybe.
was it last time.
Well, isn't is that the one that's like listed as historical, but it's not?
No, it's,
No.
well,
Oh,
it's in the
Village.
Baldwin Village District, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but it's not a
Right.
survey.
regarding that specific property, that is another example of a potential CPA project where monies could be used from CPA to raise that in the expectation. Now, we did it for like the old superintendent's office for creating open space, but you could also create it to put an affordable housing unit on it. You would have to have a deed restriction for an affordable housing unit attached to it. You couldn't just use the money to tear the building down and then sell it to the highest bidder.
Right.
So, which is, I know what they want to do, but, and then another thing that would be interesting to consider is if the town has some properties that they've taken and they're not sure what to do, can the CPA funds be used to purchase a conservation restriction from the town on that land and be held by a third party? So now it's protected in perpetuity and the town has recovered some of its lost revenue.
Mm.
I don't know if that's allowed or not, but something we
Oh,
should
yeah.
investigate before it
Right.
goes out.
I know that there's been conversations about when we finally deal with all of that, turning it over to affordable housing, so.
Hmm.
But, well. it would
If you
be- it
could
would
kind
need
of
to get-
keep us in the loop on that
Oh,
activity
on what happens with,
with the tax titling.
yeah, with the
work.
tax titles and stuff, yeah, we get that information from the town treasurer collector quite a bit, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
but before any decisions are made, it'd be nice to have a chance to review it, to see if there's something this body could do to
Right.
support the town's efforts going forward
Right.
and fulfill our mission.
Mhm.
Good, thank
Yeah,
you.
That's a good
Yes,
idea.
that's great. Thanks.
Yep, I can, yep, so I'll work on that, and I'll present it at the next meeting. So that works.
Very good. I have a question.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it still is, but there was property up the road from you, the unknown owner.
Right.
What happens with those?
I can double check with Luann on that. I know on my training, we didn't, because every assessor gets trained through the Department of Revenue. I don't know what we do with properties that are so old and don't have any records in the Worcester Registry of Deeds, what we do with them. But I can check with Luann on that.
I was just curious.
Right.
Okay, so we're kind of going over and we're causing our poor TCTV people to work overtime. So we should consider any other final thoughts or discussion points before we confirm the next meeting of August 11th at 7 PM.
I'm gonna be on vacation that week. I won't be.
Okay, you can zoom in.
I won't be here.
Okay, any other discussion, any other old business, new business that needs to be brought forward to this monthly meeting? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.